Well, we're hopping in a taxi and zipping uptown, passing some of the fancy shops of Madison Avenue. We're heading north. We're heading to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but along the way, watch some of these driving tactics of the taxis. In front of us, he'll be turning right from the middle lane, crashing through a red light. Madison Avenue is generally considered to be the best shopping street in New York City, and it has a distinctly European atmosphere with boutiques of Giorgio Armani and Valentino. Emilio Pucci is represented here, Cerruti. There's clothing stores, antique stores. You'll find furniture stores here. There's several very fancy hotels, including the Westbury Hotel and the Plaza Athénée. It's a lively place. There's always sirens and fire trucks and police flashing by. But it's a relatively safe neighborhood, even at night, as we'll see in our next program. This is part one of a two-part series on New York City. And next week, tune in again. We'll be having more adventures in the city, Times Square at New Year's Eve, for example. And we'll be taking a walk on Madison Avenue at night in our program next week. So stay tuned. World Travelers on every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. So we're making our way north, heading past these delicious gourmet delis and fancy clothing stores to the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art. This is probably the best museum in the world, maybe. We could say that. There's the Louvre is bigger, the Hermitage is perhaps bigger, but for a comprehensive collection of masterpieces, it's hard to beat New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art. The museum has an extremely diverse and wide-ranging collection, but probably the strongest department, and also the most popular, is the European paintings. They have a fine collection of the French Impressionists. They've also got Italian Renaissance. They've got Botticelli. They've got Bruegel. They've got Rubens, Van Dyck, Goya, El Greco, Velázquez. In short, just the greatest painters who ever produced the finest works of art on the planet. They're all represented inside the Metropolitan Museum. There's also a very extensive Greek and Roman art collection. An Egyptian wing includes an entire Egyptian temple and a lot of mummies and Egyptian jewelry. There's musical instruments, there's medieval art, there's 20th century art in this museum as well. So it has something for everybody. You must visit New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art while you're in the city. It should be the #1 priority for any art lover who visits New York. You'll need to spend at least 4 hours in here. There's a major collection of oceanic art and ancient Near Eastern art, Oriental art. There's Perseus and Medusa. And of course, there's a very comprehensive collection of American art. It's the largest art museum in the Western Hemisphere, 1.5 million square feet. It's got 3 million works of art, 3,000 European paintings, a colossal grand entrance hall. You're going to have a good time in the Metropolitan. Your head might even spin a little bit from the exhilarating experience. Well, now we've gone back downtown to 53rd Street and Lexington Avenue. This is a very dense part of Manhattan. It contains about 6 of the country's 12 tallest buildings, all within 5 or 6 blocks. 53rd Street in Lexington has the home of Citicorp. The Citicorp Center is one of the most unusual looking buildings in the city. It stands on 10-story high stilts, has the rakish slanted roof line, and it's actually got an anti-earthquake machine inside in case it gets a little shook up. And there's an atrium and a beautiful garden, cafe, coffee shops, and delis, all inside the Citicorp Center. And there's also a Lutheran church in the basement that offers splendid jazz concerts on Sunday afternoons. It's nice to find touches of greenery in the middle of one of the world's most dense neighborhoods. There's a lot of other great shopping districts in New York City besides Fifth Avenue. Here we're on Lexington Avenue. It's kind of an old-fashioned shopping neighborhood, and there's a lot of good discounts to be had on Lexington. It's a real busy place, but it's a lot of fun. There's restaurants and cafes. Bloomingdales is 2 blocks up the street. We'll take a look at Bloomingdales in just a second. And Citicorp Center is a few blocks away. So there's a lot of landmarks. We're just 2 streets over from Park Avenue, Madison Avenue, and then Fifth Avenue is that away. So we're very much in the heart of the shopping district, but on Lexington Avenue. You got an eclectic mix of stores in this neighborhood, ranging from cheap junk and discount stereos to high fashion and gourmet restaurants. There's Bloomingdales, or you can have a gourmet hot dog on the sidewalk corner, or a falafel. It's delicious, it's nutritious, it's a time-honored way of eating in the city, eating on the run. Or you can go to the food courts in the basement of Bloomingdale's and enjoy some much higher quality cuisine. Bloomingdale's was probably the trendiest department store in New York City in the 1970s, and it did well through the 80s, but then suffered financial hard times and went bankrupt some years ago, and it's purchased and out of bankruptcy now and doing very well. It's a great place to shop. They specialize in high quality clothing. It's showbiz in here. You might likely run into a Hollywood starlet or a famous actor or just somebody from the neighborhood. It's a great place to go, especially at Christmas time in New York City. They're famous for their shirts and pants, their suits, their ties. Gentlemen's clothing occupies several floors, and they have just as much for the ladies, of course. There's a music department. They sell hand-knit sweaters, slinky knits, American chic, sexy outfits for disco maniacs, ski outfits, lingerie, 40 different kinds of bikinis. It's a cornucopia. We'll be having a look inside of Lord & Taylor and the world's largest department store, Macy's, in our next program. Remember, next week, Tuesday, we'll be showing you a lot more of New York City, including the wild festivities at Times Square on New Year's Eve. So be sure to tune us in again next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock. Now we're making our way back into Midtown Manhattan, back to the neighborhood of Rockefeller Center. And we'll be ending up the show in a little bit with a look at the Radio City Music Hall Christmas show, featuring the Rockettes up on stage. And we'll shortly be having a look at the Sheraton New York Hotel. Rockefeller Center includes these great modern buildings as well as the buildings constructed in the 1930s and 40s. And the Sheraton New York is right next door in the heart of Midtown Manhattan. The Sheraton is one of many fine choices you can make at Midtown. We stayed there for a few days and enjoyed it, so we thought we'd tell you a little bit more about this big hotel.
Our location is excellent. We're at 53rd Street and 7th Avenue. We're just steps from Carnegie Hall, Central Park, the Museum of Modern Art, Rockefeller Center, and Fifth Avenue shopping, and of course Broadway theaters. So everything you'd want to do in New York City is just at our doorstep, which makes us a very convenient place to stay. We have a full health club in our lower lobby with Life Cycle and Cybex equipment. We also have access to a swimming pool directly across the street at our sister property, the Sheraton Manhattan Hotel. This is a large hotel. We have 1,750 guest rooms in this hotel. Each of those guest rooms was renovated as part of our $143 million renovation. Some people consider us to be a large convention hotel, but other people like the excitement of being in a big New York City hotel. One thing I'd like to emphasize, however, is the safety and security of our hotel, which I know is an issue to people who travel here to New York City. Times Square is in about 44th Street, 7th and Broadway, and we're here on 53rd Street and 7th, so we're walking distance to Times Square, which is a very exciting part of New York City with the hustle and bustle of the theaters and restaurants and shops, and I can assure people who have not been to New York and may be intimidated by Times Square that it is a very safe and exciting place to visit. We're here on the 44th floor of the Sheraton New York, which is our Towers reception desk. The top 7 floors of our hotel is our Towers, the luxury hotel within the bigger hotel. Here in the 44th floor is where our Towers guests can have their own private check-in, and there's a wonderful lounge with a terrific view of Central Park and Times Square and west to the Hudson River and New Jersey.
As one explores Midtown, you keep coming back to Rockefeller Center. Here we have the modern part of the complex with the Time Life building, the Celanese building, the McGraw-Hill building, and the Exxon building. The center occupies about 6 city blocks, and it consists of 19 very large buildings. And at the center of the center, you'll find the Rockefeller Ice Skating Rink. Perhaps this is the epicenter of the world, after all. It's a beautiful spot, and especially at Christmas with the giant tree and the statue of Poseidon and the skaters twirling around. In the summertime, it's an outdoor cafe, but you really must see it in the winter and brave the weather to experience the true ice skating rink at Rockefeller Center, surrounded by colorful banners representing the different countries of the world and the famous angels of the Channel Gardens, set up for the Christmas display each year. Called the Channel Gardens because the French embassy is on one side and the British embassy is on the other. Towering above all at the center of the complex is the RCA building, now called the GE building. It's the home of NBC, and underneath is a mall that connects all the 19 buildings of Rockefeller Center with a whole series of shops and restaurants. One of the most Christmassy things you can do in New York is go to the Christmas Spectacular at Radio City Music Hall. So let's sneak in and pay a visit. It's the world's largest movie theater with 6,000 seats, built in the 1930s in a beautiful Art Deco style that becomes immediately impressive as soon as you enter the magnificent lobby. The show's about to begin, so it's time to wish you a Merry Christmas.